Welcome to our final August edition of Let's Talk Criterion, and we certainly have a comedy double bill coming up from Albert Brooks. That's Real Life and Mother. They're both joining the collection in 4K UHD. Albert Brooks is an American actor, comedian, director and screenwriter. He received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor for his performance in the 1987 James L. Brooks comedy Broadcast News. And he was widely praised as well for his performance in the 2011 action drama Drive. He already has 3 films in the Criterion collection. That's the aforementioned Broadcast News, where he plays journalist and reporter Aaron Altman, Lost in America, directed by Brooks, where his character decides to take a road trip across America with his wife, played by Julie Hegarty, in a Winnebago. And Defending Your Life, that's where his character dies and is evaluated in a trial-like scenario to see if he is worthy to pass on to the afterlife. His co-star in that film is Meryl Streep. Now we get Albert's directorial debut, and that's Real Life. Now, Real Life is a 1979 American comedy drama film starring Albert Brooks, who also co-authored the screenplay alongside Monica Johnson and Harry Shearer. Now, Real Life is a spoof of the 1973 reality television programme called An American Family, and it portrays a documentary filmmaker named Albert Brooks who attempts to live with and film a dysfunctional family for an entire year. Now, An American Family was an American television documentary series, and it followed the life of a Californian family in the early 1970s. And it's often widely referred to as the very first example of an American reality TV show. The series itself drew millions of weekly viewers who were drawn to the story that seemed to shatter the rosy facade of upper middle class suburbia. And it also became a lightning rod for discussion about the precarious state of the American family, especially in the early 1970s. Now, this particular programme ran for just one single series and had 12 episodes. In the film Real Life, it tells the story of a filmmaker also named Albert Brooks, whose crew takes over Phoenix in Arizona for several months in order to document every waking moment of the suburban Yeager family. They're pretty average. Working with a prestigious research institute, he and his production team scoured America to find the perfect subjects for the show. People so typical and unaffected that they wouldn't mind being followed by cameras, or indeed giving up their most intimate moments for an audience of millions of people to see. Now, the conceit is slightly different from what we know of today's reality craze. The Brooks character plans to release this film theatrically, instead of turning it into a television series. But when the Yeager family agrees to take part in the project, they fall victim to the same nutty lack of authenticity that mars the genre today. Brooks rambles incessantly about the need for people to just be themselves, but that's hardly easy to do with 4 cameramen tracking every single movement that the family make, and the director himself stepping in to ask Mrs. Yeager, played in the film by Frances Lee McCain, to switch to a smaller car as she attempts to leave her husband during a fight. Now, worse yet are the state-of-the-art headgear cameras. These are absolutely hilarious. They look a bit like 2001 space pods. We frequently see weird pseudo-spacemen ducking out of frame or inching their way round doors in order to get the best coverage. Now, these miming Oompa Loompas are a constant reminder of real-life silly unreality, and it's done incredibly well. Watching this movie today, I can appreciate what Brooks and co-writers Harry Shearer and Monica McGowan Johnson were actually trying to say about show business itself. But that's largely as modern TV viewers, we see this kind of thing nearly every weeknight. I've no idea how audiences reacted to real life back in 1979, or indeed how people today will find the movie if they aren't steeped in the minutiae of media culture. And back in 1979, there was no social media, of course. I imagine a lot of confusion will be in both cases. And to be honest, I was confused as well by Brooks's climactic break from reality in his character and his ultimate solution to making his film a blockbuster. Perhaps that's the genius to the whole production, really. Now, turning everyday events into salacious train wrecks, but it doesn't quite play out. Unlike This Is Spinal Tap, which was, of course, a film co-written by and starring Shearer, it would invent the mockumentary genre a few years later. Now, Real Life is a scripted movie, unlike This Is Spinal Tap, about making a movie like documentary. Adding this layer of narrative structure was a mistake, at least in the way Brooks and company have chosen to execute it. The over-the-top media message gets a little bit muddled towards the end of the film, and the movie becomes really, at the end, about a crazy director rather than a crazy new way of a director looking at the world. Had Brooks stuck it out with the Yeagers, whose squabbling nastiness belies the all-American image they presented in the talent search, Real Life might have reached the creator's destination on its own. And one of the reasons why This Is Spinal Tap was such a success, of course, is that the director co-writer, that's Rob Reiner, knew how to get out of his subject's way. I get that one of Brooks's aims was to play up the intrusiveness of a production crew at the breakfast table, but he could have done that within the confines of a straight documentary. Real Life is responsible for a good many inspired moments, though. Mr. Brooks delivers any line he says as if it were part of a pitch to sell his audience a used car, preferably the kind with a nice new paint job, but no working engine. He is all broad grins and happy handshakes. And Charles Grodin and Frances Lee McCain in the film, they're the parents in the family, behave as if they were a little bit afraid of him. As well they should be. His is an entirely one-dimensional character, and Real Life has a sort of one-note premise to it. But the flatness in it is deliberate, and it works remarkably well, even in a feature-length format. Real Life comes to the Criterion Collection as a 4K UHD Blu-ray combo, and to be fair, the colours do pop on this HDR transfer, which has decent black levels, but there is no Dolby Vision on this release, though. I'm not really sure that it really warrants a 4K treatment at all, to be honest. Real Life contains the following special features. There's a new 4K digital restoration, and that's supervised and approved by director Albert Brooks with uncompressed mono soundtrack. We have the 4K UHD disc of the film, and that's presented in HDR, and one Blu-ray, of course, with the film and special features. New interview with Brooks. New interview with actor Frances Lee McCain. 3D trailer directed by Brooks. And an essay written by the film critic A.S. Hamra. And the cover art for the disc is based on an original theatrical poster from the film. Real Life comes to the collection in a 1:85:1 aspect ratio, has a running time of 99 minutes, and releases on Tuesday the 27th of August, a spine 12:31. Our next Albert Brooks film is one where the plot is entirely fictional, and the screenplay was written again by Albert Brooks and Monica Johnson, and this is the 1996 film Mother, where he is the main star, backed on screen by the Hollywood legend Debbie Reynolds. Brooks wanted a famous actress from the 50s to play the role of Mother, and originally offered the role to retired actresses Doris Day and former First Lady Nancy Reagan. Day turned down the offer, but Reagan loved the script and considered coming out of retirement for her first acting role in more than 40 years. But instead, she decided to stay at home and care for her husband Ronald Reagan, who was suffering from Alzheimer's disease. Brooks then asked his good friend Carrie Fisher if she could send the script to her mother, Debbie Reynolds, who accepted the part. Mothers know exactly what buttons to press to wind up their sons, and this film captures this perfectly. By this point in his writing and acting career, Albert Brooks had matured and honed his comedic timing, and this film is the epitome of this in action. It is peppered with well-placed sarcasm, especially from Brooks. It opens with John Henderson, played by Brooks, in despair because his second marriage has ended in divorce. In the lawyer's office, his ex-wife holds herself apart from him like the survivor of a long and exquisitely unpleasant experience. She brought a lot of great furniture to the marriage, Henderson reflects, returning to a house now furnished with a single chair, which he spends the afternoon rearranging. Then he telephones his mother, telling her that his problems with women all started with her, and says that he wants to move back home and get it right this time. Beatrice Henderson, played by Debbie Reynolds, isn't pleased about this. She's paid her dues, raised her children, and embraced the solitude of widowhood. She doesn't really seem to be focusing on his anguish at all. She constantly interrupts his emergency telephone call with the call waiting button, although she doesn't know how it works. Now, we see the nature of the difficulty here. We have a mother who insists on her right to do things wrong and is a torture to a perfectionist son. You also get the feeling that this whole premise could have developed into a fully fledged sitcom, as the son and mother relationship displayed has all the hallmarks of sitcom material. But Albert Brooks, who co-wrote the screenplay with Monica Johnson and directed as well as starred in it, is much too smart to settle for the obvious gags and payoffs. All of his films depend on closely observed behaviour and language, and on the way his language can refuse to let us communicate, no matter how obsessively we try to nail things down. In his scenes with Mother, they're told quietly, conversationally, and they're not pounding out punchlines, and that's why the dialogue is so funny. There are many comic moments, mainly around the bizarre idiosyncrasies displayed by his mother, beautifully played in the film by Debbie Reynolds. Her wealth of experience shines through here. The apparent dry sarcasm displayed by Brooks, which of course he showed in spades in the 1987 broadcast news, and this is what makes Mother such an engaging watch. Now, I'll try not to spoil it too much, but I'll just mention one particular scene where she has an altercation with the cable repairmen who come to visit and refuses to admit the television working as they say it does. I found that really amusing, that scene. Mother is a hidden gem, and it has finally resurfaced and should prove to be popular. Other cast playing his immediate family are Laura Weeks as Karen Henderson, Rob Morrow as Jeff Henderson, Isabel Glasser as Cheryl Henderson, Danielle Quinn as Jill Henderson, Spencer Klein as Josh Henderson, and a now famous actress, Lisa Kudrow, playing Linda. Mother was filmed on location in and around the Sausalito, Greenbrae and Tiburon, California areas, with additional shooting taking place in San Francisco, and the exterior of Beatrice's house was shot in Studio City. The film comes to the collection as a 4K UHD combo once again, and it has the following special features. New 4K digital restoration, supervised and approved by director Albert Brooks, with 2.0 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. One 4K UHD of the film presented in HDR, and one Blu-ray with the film and these special features. New interview with Brooks, new interview with actor Rob Morrow, trailer and a teaser directed by Brooks, and there's an essay written by the critic Carrie Rickey, and once again the cover is based on the original theatrical poster for the film. Mother perfectly blends the writer-director star's biting wit with insight and inviting warmth, while giving him a formidable foil in the delightful Debbie Reynolds, triumphant in a comeback role that's equal parts caustic and charming. And Criterion are certainly honouring Albert Brooks at the moment with this now being the 5th entry in the collection, both as an actor and director. Now, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about a new feature I'm working on, which I hope will tie in with the 40th anniversary of Criterion, and that is highlighting films in the collection made in a certain year. And we suitably begin this feature with Criterion's inaugural year. That's 1984. So watch out for that on the channel, it's coming soon. And sadly, actor Alain Delon passed away last week. He was a regular creative contributor to European cinema during the New Wave period especially, and he featured in many popular films, including Purple Noon, The Leopard, Le Cercle Rouge, Le Samouraï, and La Piscine during his long and illustrious career. He passed away peacefully in his home in Douchy, aged 88. And Criterion recently re-released his 1967 film Le Samouraï in 4K UHD. In our next edition, which starts off the month of September, we take a look at the 4K UHD upgrade of the Alex Cox film, incidentally from 1984, Repo Man, coming to the collection early next month. So until then, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.